Greetings and welcome once more to the Dracovin Empire. It is I, your guide, Lord and Emperor, Dantas Van Dracovin, once again ready to bring you to the world of Golarion. The setting for Pathfinder. If you are ready to head to Golarion, if you are prepared to travel with me through my dimensional time-space gate to that, you will have to do two things for me. One, you must of course help me, help support this channel where you are viewing this. Make sure that if you are not subscribed, you are. And of course, let me know what you think of today's topic, the statue builders, in the comments below. And of course, keep hold of my hand. For if you let go of it, I may not be able to bring you back from the world we entered into it. The portal is open. Let us go once more to Golarion. We have arrived in Eastern Garund. In today, to learn of an ancient civilization that is both an enigma and has a powerful legacy. One that we know so little of, but yet so much of, and a mystery in many of it, the statue builders. Now, while there isn't any true primary sources of the statue builders, there are one book that kind of hints a lot about them, and that is, of course, the Impossible Lands. Why? Because part of the legacy of statue builders is deep within Alkenstar, Dungenhold, the Sky Citadel of Alkenstar, the Sky Citadel of the Dwarfs, who are some of the very few people that may have known what it was like to be a statue builder. And that is why they are connected deeply with their legacy. Let us learn, let us discuss, let us dive in. Now, this map here kind of shows that we know the statue builders were in Eastern Garund. We know they had a power from about negative 7,000 AR to negative 4,000 AR. Now, if we were to define that kind of time period, that's marking the Age of Legends. So keep in mind, this is the time period that we know their civilization existed in through the fall of the world, through Earthfall. The statue builders were around pre-Earthfall and survived to post-Earthfall. Now, not deep post-Earthfall, but consider that Earthfall was in negative 5293. So they survived another 1,300 years after the supposed end of the world. It's one of those major things about them, that they existed in a time period of serpent folk, of Cyclops and their great empire, and of course, the time of the Aslanti. And they built their civilization in this region separately from them. It is an impressively impossible thing in many ways to think about a people that survived the end of the world and kept going for over 1,000 years to continue to prosper in that time. But like all great things, they would fall. And so we must look at what history we know of them and their fall, their eventual destruction. Now, the fact is, what little we know about them is built on what they are known for. Statues. We don't have any major written records, save for what kind of connections are to Dungenhold, and a lot of what they did was mysterious. These people did build a fairly powerful civilization in this region, but we don't know that a lot of their buildings used wood and hide, and they don't have a lot of very large, basically, footprints. There are some ditches, earthen hovels from some settlements and things like that. We have a lack of religious kind of information, lack of way of life that we know about. They're statues. What they are known for is what mostly remains from this culture and marks their history. They skillfully carved numerous statues of marble and soapstone, showing distinct and particular style, ranging from 8 to 12 inches in height, though some were huge. And the statues portrayed faceless humanoid figures with strikingly angular artistry indigenous to the region. The majority have folded arms, while some wield weapons or musical instruments. A handful have displayed intriguing hand gestures, with fingers interlaced in unusual manners, affecting basically additional digits beyond the norm, possibly. This is what we know of them. But it is one of these things, this is pretty much it. They were pre-Osirian. They basically are along this area. And the fact is, maybe the fact that they did not have these great cities or mighty fortresses helped them survive Earthfall. If you're in the Shattered Ring foothills, you can find some hollowed husks near the Cyclopsian towers that mark of the civilizations in this region. There's just so little left of them. And when the dwarfs finish their quest for the sky and emerge on Golarion, that's when we begin to know some more of them. Basically, with the kingdoms of the dwarfs and the High King sending individuals out to scout out areas to create more sky citadels, they established an outpost in this region that was occupied by a people. Statue builders. And these initial dwarven colonists, well, this could have led to violence. But instead, it became a deal. Basically, a politician named Pethraseth basically came up with an idea. These dwarfs, they were here to stay, and they didn't want to get into a fight with them. So basically, they gave them territory in their land. The territory which Dungan Hold would be built in exchange for something. Basically, they would effectively lease out this territory. Every year, they had to give a small coffer of silvers to the nomarch, basically the ruler of the statue builders. He was of the free will initiative, and basically, they would oftentimes send some food or goods and supplies to the dwarven settlements. Basically, you're giving us a little bit of money, you're kind of paying us, but again, a couple times, we're going to help support you too, keep you going. And this was kind of like a arrangement that was kind of saving face, occasionally sending them some goods, paying some money, and war would not occur. And yeah, the dwarfs kept their line, kept their things, and kept records. But unfortunately, war, migration, problems eventually led to the destruction of the statue builders. We are unsure how they eventually fell. The Osirian Empire was growing this time. Perhaps they conquered these people during the Age of Destiny. We know the Osirians had influence in this region. There were other things that could have been happening, changes in the territory. There's so much that could have happened that led to their downfall, but we do not know the exact history that led to it. But we know that the statue builders and the evidence of them disappears around artifacts from around -4,000. Beyond that, it's gone. The statue builders go into legend, with their statues being most of what's left behind. Now, this is a piece of Dungan Hold architecture, which I'm not sure it's supposed to, but it kind of looks like it displays, perhaps the deal with the dwarfs and the people, the statue builders. It kind of looks like that, but it could also be new and mark the connections with the people of Alkenstar. Either way, I think it tells of the two deals that Dungan Hold has made in its history. And I will do an episode of Dungan Hold. I think it's best to talk about that. Sans Alkenstar, it deserves its own thing. But in this case, yeah, this could mean both the two deals that have shaped the history of Dungan Hold, one with the country of Alkenstar as it's settled, and one in the old days settling the original Sky Citadel with the statue builders. We don't know a lot about the leadership, except say they were ruled by these nomarchs. And the fact is that Pethraseth is supposedly one of those nomarchs, the leadership of it, a politician, if you will, of some kind. The main evidence we have left over of this leadership is, of course, the deal. I'm going to tell you, the deal is still going. Yes. After 7,000 plus years, that deal they made is still going. Basically, Dungan Hold has been putting aside a bit of silver every year into a giant pile. This pile is something, they made a deal with them, and they're going to keep that goddamn deal with statue builders. It's out of respect for people that allowed them to settle this place, that allowed them to survive here. So, that coffer of silver been building up. It's the Nomarch's bequest. It's one of the greatest fortunes in all of Garant. And the dwarves of Dunghamhold are sensible, though. They've used it as basically a special budgetary in a time of crisis. You know, they pull upon it in crisis time and then put money back in when things come back to normal. But if today, someone that could prove himself Rasith's heir, ancestor, descendant, a descendant of the person that brokered the deal, they would actually have access to that fortune. It would be their bequest. And then they can continue to claim afterwards, at least until, you know, they couldn't, and then the fortune would start building up again. But you just have to think about that. This massive and powerful fortune that is the legacy of the leadership of the statue builders exists. And if someone of the blood of them still remains out there, some of the blood of their leadership remains out there, they're the richest person in all of Golarion. At least cold hard cash wise. I'm sure there are places where, you know, things of other monetary wealth exist that might be more. But if we're talking straight up cash, coinage, that big old treasure sitting there as a legacy of the statue builders is there. And that's, I think, where we talk legacy. Because though most of the statue builders is completely gone, we still have this legacy in Dunghamhold. The fact that they keep this treasure going means that they remember. They remember the people that, when they came here, did not choose war, chose peace. That is a major thing that has probably helped define Dunghamhold, even as they became independent from the great dwarven empire of Targaryen. In their own place, deep in the Mana Wastes, deep in here. The fact that they could form this deep bond with Alkenstar, before the fact that they remember the people of this region and continue to respect them. It is a fascinating legacy. And the great statues that are left behind, these strange statues that are all over, that mark their history. This is all that we have left of the legacy of the statue builders. It's a fascinating one, and I would love to see if maybe perhaps there's more treasures or things to discover about this fascinating great culture. But again, it's like, will Paizo explore them? Will you explore them in your adventures? Those are always questions to ask, and kind of leaves us where we have to kind of think about the statue builders. Because they're one of the ancient civilizations that would be really cool to learn more about, but also, is there a lot to explore about them? I think a lot of the other ancient civilizations in Golarion are so fascinating because they have great ruins filled with magical artifacts or lost information, stuff of like magical or scientific information and the things that they developed in different directions that people didn't think about. The great sky cities, the powers of the ancient Assyrians, the Jade Hegemon and TNZ, the great elementals and things like that, the alien empire of the Valashai. All of these groups leave a mark that would be very fascinating to explore, to discover. Things that they did, great magics, great sciences, great all these things. Statue builders made statues. There isn't any greatness there. But maybe there is in a lot of ways. Maybe there's something there that links to an old culture. Maybe perhaps rather than thinking about exploring an architectural thing and artifacts and stuff like that left over, maybe an adventure you're having dealing with the statue builders is helping find that heir. Someone of that blood. Someone that deserves that treasure. Someone that the dwarves of Dunghamhold can finally pass on that treasure. Maybe that's an adventure to have. Maybe not. It's not that there isn't stories to tell here. They're just different stories. And I like when there's different stories for these ancient cultures, and that's why I think statue builders are still great to talk about. But that will be it for today. I hope you enjoyed diving into statue builders. And again, we don't know a lot about them, but there is so much here that hints at a great and interesting legacy that I think it's really important still to talk about them. And I hope you've enjoyed. If you want to check out more of my things, you can always join me live on Twitch, where I record all these. Or, all my tabletop stuff does end up on YouTube. On the Twitch side, though, I record this, my live plays, like Fall Down and Swell Wednesdays at 8, my talk show discussion show, discussing tabletop Saturdays at 6, and I do some gaming, hang with friends, and chatting about tabletop in between. So if you just want to join and chat, you always can. Of course, YouTube's my big place, so if you're over there, remember that subscription, remember that comment, always helps, and you can always find anything archived that I've done tabletop related there. You can always check out my social media, link below, where that's updates on my schedule, Discord, the best of them. And anyway, I'm going to get going. Until the next time we dive into Golarion's history or another role-playing world, I bid you all a deep and wonderful farewell.